Before the $20 organic turkey and the artisanal stuffing, there was a time when Thanksgiving was less about gourmet and more about budget. Welcome back to the 1980s, an era when families stretched every dollar, and dinner was defined by cream of mushroom soup, gelatin, and Velveeta. This year, we're peeling back the decades to look at 30 cheap Thanksgiving dinners that fed big families on a shoestring budget. These dishes aren't just recipes, they're forgotten traditions that prove you don't need a lot of money to feed the ones you love. Get ready for a heavy dose of nostalgia, from the wobbling Jell-O mold to the canned cranberry that still had can rings. Here are 30 cheap 1980s Thanksgiving dinners that we've all forgotten.
1. Roasted turkey with bread stuffing. The turkey itself wasn't fancy. It was often dry, and the stuffing was always a simple bread-based mix, moist from a splash of broth, not rosemary and wild rice. 2. Canned cranberry jelly rings. It was served sliced straight from the can. The ridges were a feature, not a bug. If it didn't wobble, it wasn't right. 3. The true American side dish. It had to be Campbell's soup and French's fried onions. No fresh green beans allowed. It was a study in beige comfort. 4. Cheese potato baked, often called funeral potatoes or just potato casserole. This used frozen hash, browns, and a ton of processed cheese soup to stretch a side dish for 20 people. 5. Sweet potato casserole with marshmallows, syrup, sugar, and tiny marshmallows. It walked the line between side dish and dessert, usually winning the dessert vote for the kids. 6. Instant mashed potatoes and gravy. Real potatoes took time. Instant mashed potatoes were the budget and time saver. The gravy? Likely from a packet, thickened with cornstarch. 7. Frozen corn and peas mix. The most uninspired side dish. Plain frozen corn and peas, often boiled to death. It was cheap, it was green, and it was mostly ignored. 8. Deviled eggs. A mandatory cold appetizer. They were loaded with mayonnaise, mustard, and paprika. Never an organic egg in sight, just a classic crowd pleaser. 9. Jell-O mold salad. The Jell-O mold was the queen of the 80s table, often savory, or at least highly questionable, with ingredients like shredded carrots or walnuts suspended inside. 10. Turkey noodle casserole. The ultimate early use for leftovers, often appearing before the main meal was even over. A lot of noodles, a little bit of turkey, and a whole lot of creamy soup. 11. Pumpkin pie from the can. Absolutely no fresh pumpkin here. It came from a can, it was fast, and it was perfectly spiced for the masses. Tasted like Thanksgiving should. 12. Cool Whip ambrosia. A fluffy bowl of Cool Whip, marshmallows, and canned fruit. Sweet, sticky, and completely unpretentious. The key was the non-dairy whip topping. It was the epitome of 80s dessert excess. 13. Stovetop stuffing. When you didn't have time for the bread stuffing, stovetop was the hero. Water, margarine, and 5 minutes. Pure instant nostalgia. 14. Canned yams with brown sugar. Yams baked with lots of brown sugar and butter. The canned yams were already sweet, but they were doused in brown sugar and butter to hide any semblance of health. Sticky and rich. 15. Butter-flavored dinner rolls. Store-bought or Pillsbury rolls, shiny with margarine. Simple, soft dinner rolls, often served from a basket, kept warm, and slathered with margarine, not actual butter. 16. Fruit cocktail salad. A bowl of canned fruit cocktail, usually in heavy syrup. A bowl of syrupy, budget-friendly canned fruit cocktail. The bright colors were a welcome sight next to the beige casseroles. 17. Tuna casserole. A casserole with tuna, noodles, and cream of soup. A non-traditional but frequent Thanksgiving edition, especially if the guest list grew suddenly. Tuna, noodles, soup, and crushed potato chips on top. 18. Baked macaroni and cheese. A simple, creamy baked mac and cheese, often made with evaporated milk and simple cheddar. It was the guaranteed kid pleaser and a reliable, inexpensive side. 19. Bisquick biscuits. Biscuits made from the biscuit mix. When time was tight, the yellow box came out. Bisquick biscuits were a quick, foolproof way to get warm bread on the table. 20. Cranberry orange gelatine loaf. A firm, dense gelatin loaf with whole cranberry pieces. A more formal loaf-style Jell-O dish, often combining the sweet tart of cranberry with the bright flavor of orange. Very retro, very forgotten. 21. Potluck. Meatloaf casserole. A meatloaf topped with ketchup or brown sugar glaze. Sometimes a host would ask guests to bring a main dish, and the humble meatloaf, a cheap and hearty option, would appear. 22. Corn pudding. A savory sweet corn casserole, custard. The Midwestern favorite. A simple mix of corn, eggs, and milk baked into a soft, custardy dish. Filling, cheap, and very comforting. 23. Turkey stuffed crescent rolls. Leftover turkey and cheese inside a flaky crescent roll. The first day after lunch hero. A quick way to transform dry leftover turkey into a warm, flaky, delicious snack using canned crescent rolls. Kaskukno Nuedlia. Velveta cheese dip with chips. A melting block of Velveeta in a slow cooker. The quintessential 80s appetizer. A block of processed cheese melted down, served with corn chips. Not Thanksgiving specific, but always present. 5. Green beans, heavily seasoned with canned bacon bits. Elevating the canned green bean. Bacon bits, or heavily processed bacon pieces. Added fat and salt for flavor and budget. 26. Turkey pot pie with leftovers. A pot pie made with a frozen crust and turkey gravy. Another way to stretch the leftovers. Everything that was left, turkey, carrots, potatoes, and gravy, tucked under a flaky, often store-bought, pie crust. 27. Instant coffee and pumpkin pie. A mug of instant coffee next to a slice of pie. No fancy espresso machine here. The after-dinner coffee was instant, served piping hot, and paired perfectly with that canned pumpkin pie. 28. A classic apple cobbler. A rustic baked cobbler with a biscuit topping. A less expensive and less fussy alternative to a double-crust pie. Simple baked apples with a fluffy cake-like top. 29. Canned peaches in syrup. A bowl of canned peaches served cold. For the non-pie eaters, or simply as an extra sweet treat, a bowl of cold, sweet, syrupy peaches was a cheap, easy dessert. 30. Homemade bread pudding. A warm, dense bread pudding. A great way to use up stale bread and milk. Simple, budget-friendly, and a warm, cinnamon-spiced end to a large meal. And there you have it. 30 forgotten dishes that made the 1980s. Thanksgiving affordable, memorable, and absolutely delicious in its own unique way. Today we worry about organic, locally sourced, and gluten-free. Back then, we worried about feeding a large family on a single paycheck. These recipes weren't about luxury. They were about love, comfort, and tradition, stretched across a folding card table. Which of these dishes were on your family's table? Did you have the Jell-O mold or the Velveeta dip? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down Thanksgiving nostalgia, please like this video and subscribe for more food history. Happy Thanksgiving!